Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into another episode of Rantas Reviews. I'm Kevin Ranta and I'm your host for this episode. And with me today, I have the privilege and the honor of having not only myself, but Steven Ranta and Larry Ranta, 3 generations of Ranta men who are all experienced beer drinkers. Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about your beer experience over the years?
Well, I was born back in the 1950s. My first recollection of drinking a beer was when I bummed a beer off my dad, and it was a Schlitz. And it was the worst thing I'd ever tasted. But after a while, I grew into enjoying beer, and in college, Hamm's was our choice of beer, except on poker night. We wanted to feel a little special, and we would drink Michelob and Lowenbrau. Since then, it was been Budweiser, Coors products most of the time. And now I'm starting to try more beers, craft beers and such with my family, and that's it.
All right, thanks Larry. So I myself have never had a Schlitz, I've never had a Hamm's. Those are all beers from a generation that I'm not familiar with. So I'm excited to see what Larry thinks about the beers that we'll be trying today, as we're gonna be trying some craft beers from around the area, more specifically blonde ale beers. With that, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with drinking beer?
Well, I had my first beer when I was in high school, and I believe it was Thanksgiving, and Pop offered me to have a beer with dinner, and I tried it and I thought it was horrible, and I didn't understand why adults drank that, and I swore I never would. And then fast forward to college and everything changed, and I think part of it was the social aspect, kind of acclimated to the taste, and soon discovered that I loved beer. And it was at a time where a lot of craft breweries were opening up in the Los Angeles area and San Diego. Me and my friends and classmates would go around and try different breweries and different craft beers, and got really into IPAs and pale ales, and saisons came around. We kind of just ate that up. So that was really enjoyable. And then come post-graduation, started traveling around the world a lot. Went to places like Belgium and Germany and the UK, and got to try a lot of craft beers from around Europe, from breweries that have been around from like the 1800s, other countries in Asia, and tried those beers as well to just kind of increase my palate, and have really enjoyed drinking beer since.
Nice. So as you can tell, we have a couple experienced beer drinkers, and I'm also an experienced beer drinker. I like craft breweries, a lot of beers around here. That seems to be something that became a lot more popular, especially growing up, is just craft breweries between the different types of beer, and sours were a beer that I've never had, but they're more, they're a beer that came around more recently, and there's IPAs and stouts and lagers and red ales, and that's what this channel is gonna be all about, is we're going to be testing different types of beers. A lot of them are gonna be craft breweries. We're gonna be trying to get a little bit of awareness around companies and breweries and beer brands that are in the state of California, starting with Southern California and expanding out from there. So I myself, a little background, when I started drinking beer, I started with Coors Light. I believe my dad offered me one at one point. Thought it was the worst thing in the world. And later on in life, my friend Peter actually offered me a Stella, and that beer went down a little bit smoother. And then, I don't know, something between the age of 20 and 21, a switch gets flipped and beer tastes amazing. So today, we're gonna be trying some blonde ales, which I'm gonna bring them up here. All right, everyone, so first I'm gonna introduce each beer that we'll be drinking today, and as I mentioned before, we're going to be drinking blonde ales. All of these beers have come from either Southern California or Northern California. I think the only Northern California beer is this one, and all the other ones are either gonna be Southern California region, or they might be nationwide at this point, but we're gonna be getting our palates cleansed and trying all the different types of beers. So the first beer that we're gonna be drinking is a Santa Monica 90404. Brew Works Beach Brewed 310, and this is brewed in Santa Monica, California. Second beer that we're gonna be drinking is a Mission Brewery Blonde Ale, and this beer is brewed and canned by Mission Brewery in San Diego, California. The next blonde ale we'll be drinking is a BJ's Brewhouse Cloche Style Beer. and that is brewed by BJ's Restaurant, which I'm sure there's a BJ's in most of the country. The next beer we'll be drinking is an Eel River Brewing Co. California Blonde Ale, and this beer is brewed by Eel River Brewing Co. Company, Incorporated in Scotia, California. The next beer that we'll be testing is a Society Brewing Company, the Harlot Blonde Ale, a San Diego brewery. And the final blonde ale that we'll be testing today is a Pizza Port Honey Blonde Ale, brewed with honey, so this one's got a little bit of a difference from the others, and this is brewed in San Clemente, California via Pizza Port. So without further ado, let's get started, gentlemen. All right, so again, this is the Santa Monica Brewworks Beach Brewed 310 California Blonde Ale. See what we feel, gentlemen. Very light. It is refreshing, doesn't have much of an aftertaste. From my perspective, this beer is very light, goes down easy, doesn't have a bitter taste to it, almost has no bitter taste at all. I don't sense anything that's like a IBU would be very high on it. I think this is a blonde ale that honestly anybody could drink.
I like this. Like I said, I was raised on lagers, and this is a very light beer too, not bitter, so I like it.
I do taste hints of some of the bitterness to the hops, more than other blonde ales, but it's still refreshing. It's not bitter. I'd agree with that. Yeah, this is really enjoyable beer.
Yeah.
Great one for summer or winter in California, Southern California.
Good for cornhole, playing that cornhole in the backyard on the back nine. So for Ranta's reviews, we're gonna be doing the Ranta ranking system where we're not gonna complicate it. It's either gonna be you liked it with a thumbs up, or you give it a rank between 1 to 5. If it's really bad, it's a 1. If it's a 5, it's good, it's tolerable, but you're still not a fan of it. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
I give this a thumbs up.
I give this a thumbs up as well, and I'll say it's a 4 on a scale of 5
Oh, I like that too.
within blonde ales.
And I would give it a 4 also.
I myself really enjoyed it. Some blondes are a little overpowering taste, so I'm actually gonna give it a 5 out of 5. 'Cause I would recommend drinking this to anybody. So again, that was Santa Monica Brewworks Beach Brewed 310, 4.8% alcohol, brewed in Santa Monica, California. Now we are going to move on to the Society Brewing Company, the Harlot Blonde Ale, a San Diego brewery. The reason I pour my dad's like that is it's less carbonation. I don't mind the carbonation as much.
We old guys don't like too much carbonation.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna cracker it up so I can revise my palate.
Now, something to note on this, it combines Belgian yeast to create a charming beer with light body and a floral hop bouquet.
Oh, interested on that light body aspect.
I'm a big fan of Belgians.
Good aroma to it. Let us taste.
That's nice.
This one has like a more of a wheat taste to it. A little bit kind of like a Hefeweizen.
Yeah, that's where you're getting that Belgian yeast. You get some floral hops in it as well. Not too strong, not too bitter. But you do get those hops.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like they call it a blonde ale, but to me, this would be more like a wheat beer. It's from what I'm used to trying.
Goes down smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Let's say it goes down. Is it up there with Schlitz and ham? Or is it Michelob style?
It's not as bright of a beer as other blonde ales.
Right.
But it's also not as sweet.
What I like is, with it being kind of having that wheat taste to it, a lot of Hefeweizens have like a lot of fruit, like scents to it, and banana's a really big one. I'm glad that this doesn't have like a hint of banana to it, because then it would be more like a Hefeweizen in my opinion. So for a blonde ale, I like it. All right, so for my personal opinion on the Society Brewing Company, the Harlot Blonde Ale, I liked it. I would definitely get the Society Brewing Company on a flight. but I don't know if I would get this exact beer for a second round trip. While with the Santa Monica Brew, I would. So I will give this a thumbs up with a 3 out of 5.
A little more bitter than I like, so I would give it a thumbs up, and I'd rate it at a 3 out of 5.
I'll give this beer a thumbs up. Within blonde ales, relative to other blonde ales, I would actually give it a 3.5 out of 5. But within, all beer types, I'd give this a 4 because I do like the Belgium aspect to it.
I think that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5 and not like a 4 or higher, was because it reminded me too much of like a wheat beer, like a Belgian style beer. And I know that's what they were going for, but if I'm getting a blonde ale, I want something with a little bit less of that bitter taste to it. All right, everybody, so we just tried the Society Blonde Ale, and now we're moving on to the Eel River Brewing Co. California Blonde Ale. This is the only beer that isn't coming from Southern California. It's more on the Northern California front. That's right, Pop, Scotia, California, that's Northern?
Northern California.
Okay, so this one's up north, kind of near like Eureka Brewery and wherever they make Great White. Northern California beer, and we are going to be trying this out, blonde ale style. This one's darker, just from appearance sake. Some of these bottles are gonna have some excess in it. All right, so this Eel River California Blonde Ale doesn't have anything on it saying like the Society beer with the whole Belgian wheat, so I'm expecting this to be a pretty straightforward blonde ale. Smells like a lager. That's something. There's an interesting taste. I have yet to discover it.
Yeah, it does remind me of the lager.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the woods.
Look like a lager, tastes like a lager. What do you
It's a lager.
It must be a lager. I mean, I swear, blonde ale, big first thing written on there, but I genuinely...
It doesn't have a very strong scent to it like the other ones.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, very small scent,
It's not sweet.
not sweet. It tastes good.
It does. If anything, it has a bit of a dry aftertaste.
I mean, okay, let me ask you guys, does this taste more like a blonde or like a lager? Like if you were to be served this and you didn't know what it was?
I think maybe drinking other blondes next to this changes our perspective. If we had this on its own, it would maybe taste more like a blonde, but within the context of all the other blonde ales, it tastes more like a lager to me.
I'd agree. I also say alcohol-wise, most of these are below 5% or maybe hovering slightly above 5%. This one's at 5.8%. So it's almost at 6%. That's where you'll see kind of a lot of lagers or even like a Bud Light Platinum or those beers that have higher percentages will often not have that blonde ale taste to it. So I don't mind it, I don't dislike it, but in rating blonde ales, I will say it definitely tastes more like a lager than the blonde ales that we've had in the last 2 beers. So for myself on the Ranta ranking system, for this beer, I like it. I still think it doesn't exactly taste like a blonde ale. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up, and I'm gonna give it a 4.5. 4.5. It would've got a full 5, but it doesn't have that blonde ale taste that I'm just like, sipping on this blonde ale. Tastes good, I'm outdoors, I'm doing my thing. It still tastes like a great beer, but as far as blonde ales go, it tastes kind of like a lager, and to me, I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Since I do like lagers, I did enjoy this, and I'm going to give it a 4 and a thumbs up. You do taste a little bit more of the higher alcohol concentration, but again, it's nice and smooth, so I liked it.
I'm actually gonna give this a sideways thumb. Not all the way down, but and not all the way of a thumbs up, but sideways. Within the context of blonde ales, I would actually give this a 3 because it's not meeting my expectation of a blonde ale. And as a beer on its own, I would give it 3.5. So I wasn't too psyched about it.
So that was the Eel River California Blonde Ale. Overall, still a passable beer. I think we'd all be down to sit down and enjoy this beer again at some point. However, when we're comparing it to other blonde ales, which is the intent of this video, we're all going to pretty much agree that it didn't exactly hit the mark in comparison to other beers, but still a great beer overall. All right, guys, so we just tried the Eel River Blonde Ale, and now we're moving on to the California Honey Blonde by Pizza Port here in San Clemente, California. So this is the only beer, other than I'd say the Society one, that had the more Belgian hints to it. This one has specified that they are having a more honey blonde to it. So there are scents of honey in there. We are going to take that into consideration. The fact that they did label it on there and we know it's transparently about honey, but just a little bit of information on the side. Experience the taste of California from the palm of your hand. California honey is light and refreshing with a hint of sweetness and crisp finish. This honey-soaked blonde ale has been a Pizza Port favorite since the early days. Now you can take the sweetness of California with you wherever you go. Cheers. So again, the fact that they put on the can that it's supposed to have hint of sweetness, crisp finish, we're gonna take that into consideration when trying out the beer. Bam! Also, this is a 16 full ounce can, which is what all Pizza Port's beers come in. So aside from coming in a 12 ounce can, like most of the other beers, or bottle, we have 16 ounces here. So the highest one we had was the Eel River beer. That one was at 5.8%. So far, I don't think anything else equivalates to it.
I'm searching for that honey. Yeah, I can definitely get hints of that.
I don't get the honey so much. It smells kind of like grape to me. Or it smells kind of like a little more fruit.
You get a lot of head on that pour too.
Yeah, it's taking a bit for the head to go down.
Taste the honey.
Actually, yeah, quite pronounced the honey taste.
So I have had one of these cans before, in which case it came straight from Pizza Port, and I felt like it tasted a little bit different. But yeah, the beer that came straight from the source tasted more pronounced with the honey, and I guess you could call it citrus, but it tastes more like grape to me, while the Total Wine beer does not have quite as powerful and pungent of a taste. I don't know if that has anything to do with the beer itself, but I like this one. This one tastes pretty good.
No, I definitely taste hints of honey, almost some grapefruit in there.
That might be that grape, yeah, that grape I was
Quite bright
hinting.
and smooth.
Smells good.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's really refreshing, really crisp.
And it's not too sweet. I was expecting it to be sweet, and it's not. And actually, I want to have this is a good beer to have a meal with, I think.
The enhanced flavors with it would really come into play if you were to have like, I don't think like a steak dinner, but I'm thinking like a burger with fries.
Or pizza.
Or pizza. Yeah, pizza, chicken wings. This is a good, oh, by the way, Pizza Port, I've had their chicken wings. They got some bomb-ass chicken wings, man.
You're just plugging all these things.
Well, this one's in San Clemente, man. And who knows, maybe Total Wine will send me some free beers. So overall in the Ranta ranking system, I will say I'm a bit more surprised because I have had this beer before, but in comparison to the blonde ales we're having now, and this exact beer right here that I got from Total Wine, I'm gonna give this blonde ale a thumbs up with a 5 out of 5.
This has a very nice flavor. I do like the honey flavor added to the blonde ale. I really like this a lot. I'm going to give it a 5.
How about you, dear brother?
So I expected this to be sweeter than it was because of the addition of honey. It was not, and I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this beer. I'll give it a thumbs up, and within blonde ales, I'd give it a 5 out of 5 as well.
Bam! First 5 out of 5 across the board, baby.
Pizza Port continues to surprise me with their beers. They've been around for a while.
That was the California Honey Blonde from Pizza Port. Got a 5 out of 5 from across the board. And again, we are taking into consideration that this one has a honey aspect to it, while the other beers didn't have the honey aspect. The one Society beer had the Belgium aspect to it. So you can always infuse a blonde ale with different this or that to make it taste the way you want. But we think Pizza Port was spot on with the Honey Blonde. So 5 out of 5 across the board. It's a little bit left if anybody wants it. So we just finished the California Honey Blonde by Pizza Port, and now we are jumping on to the BJ's Blonde Kolsch style beer. So Kolsch style, meaning it has a Belgian/German taste to it, meaning that they have infused another style or taste of beer to it. So we are expecting and anticipating that. Nothing else on the can other than the statistics and information coming straight from the great state of Texas. Smells like a half. You're doing German style. Pretty good, pretty heavenly.
It does have that a very airy, light.
Ooh, this is gonna sound weird, but there's taste in the carbonation. Like as you feel it like hit the back of your tongue, you can feel that, to me, what seems like the Belgian, or excuse me, the Kolsch German style. I can taste that on the back of my tongue. It almost kind of infuses like a lager, hitting with a blonde ale, so German style beer. It's not bad. It tastes good, not bitter at all, pretty refreshing. I'm wondering if the taste of the beer changes at all once we like got through like, you know, a few cans of beer and we're like tasting it up. I don't think so. I mean, if anything, it just goes down smoother at that point.
Yeah, it's very bright and you know, slight hints of citrus.
So for the Ranta ranking system, for the BJ's Blonde Ale Kolsch style beer, I'm going to give this BJ's Blonde Ale a thumbs up, and I'm actually also going to give it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have any bitter aftertaste to it. I didn't have any weird surprise sense or taste to it. Overall, it just tasted like a good blonde ale that I'd like to crack open and, you know, drink outdoors, at the beach. Very good beer.
This beer goes down very smooth, refreshing. This a 5 also.
I feel like I'm always the antagonist in these things. I'm a big fan of German beers and Kolsch style, or Kolsch beers. There are subtle notes of citrus, and it was quite light and bright. But within or amongst other blonde ales, I would say it didn't really hit the mark. And I also will say it didn't hit the mark when trying to be a Kolsch style beer. And I would give this a 3 out of 5 within other blonde beers and other beers.
So there's something I want to point out real quick. What I like about this taste palette survey, I guess you would say, of different individuals is my dad and I, we both very much like this beer. Steven, he's done a lot of international travel and he's had a lot of different beers. So his palate is definitely a lot more broad than ours is. So I love the fact that he has that experience and that he can compare them to it. As far as blonde ales with a German style to it, I'm inexperienced with that. I don't have much. This one tasted better to me than the other German style beer. So that's why I wanted to give it a higher ranking, but just something I wanted to point out. I like that we have this little palette of tastes and tests.
There's definitely some generational differences here.
I agree.
I appreciate the effort in trying to execute certain styles of beers, but sometimes they don't necessarily hit the mark.
You heard it here. 2 5s and a 3. Not a bad beer. Good for the next day. So we just tried the BJ's Blonde Kolsch style ale, and now we are moving on to the Mission Brewery Blonde Ale. This is our last beer that we are going to be tasting and testing today of the Blonde Ale Chronicles. And a little bit of information. This is a 12 full ounce can, 5% alcohol by volume, brewed and canned by Mission Brewery, San Diego, California. And a little information, blonde ale inspired by the Kolsch style ales of Germany. Our blonde ale is smooth and crisp. A touch of malt sweetness is balanced by subtle, noble hop character for a clean, drinkable beer, sure to please even the most discerning palates. Okay, so I think
They're setting the bar high.
I think we saved a good beer for the end, because not only are they a Kolsch style German beer, or inspired by a Kolsch style German, but they're also a touch of malt sweetness, which is kind of like the honey blonde we had, which is combining the sweetness taste, and they're saying it can please even the most discerning palates. So they're taking the bar up by saying no matter what, you're gonna be happy. So this is the Mission Brewery Blonde Ale, smooth, balanced, and laid back.
I am a big fan of Mission.
I always finish the
I
cap.
can smell that from down here.
Ooh,
It's like a dark orange.
kind of an orangey to it, and this is the only beer that I've smelt a hint of fruit to it. I smell that banana, and I'm worried.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
I can taste it's a little bit more bitter, but it also has a pretty pleasing aftertaste. It seems to linger on the tongue.
It still tastes like a blonde ale while having hints of other styles added to it.
Based on the consumption of alcohol, we have non-biased decisions of our alcohol tasting abilities. This one has a bitterness though that just won't go away.
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself there, boy. All right, so for the Ranta ranking system for me on the Mission Brewery Blonde Ale, which has hints of German Kolsch style beer, which again, they said that they could please any palate and had a hint of sweetness. So it probably of all the beers had the most going on in it. I'm going to rank it a 3 out of 5. Still a thumbs up, but that aftertaste to me was a little bit too lingering. Stayed, and at a certain point you want it to go away. And to me, that's not a beer that you're gonna keep sipping and keep enjoying. So I am going to give it a 3 out of 5 based on it being a good beer, something I would definitely get on a flight, maybe get a pint of after, but not my favorite beer.
This beer didn't do it for me. The aftertaste is too strong, and there's just too much going on in this beer. So I give this a 2 out of 5.
Again, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. I enjoyed this beer a lot. I think compared to the other beers that were trying to add or imitate a Kolsch style, it executed that quite well. It had hints of sweetness without being too sweet, and notes of citrus, which was really nice. I enjoyed this beer. I give it a thumbs up and a 4.5 when compared to other blondes, and a 4.5 amongst other beers as well. I enjoyed this.
All right, so we are at the point where we are looking forward to sharing with you which beer was our favorite of the 6 that we have tried today. Let's start it off with the generation of Larry. Pop, if you want to go ahead and go first, what was your favorite beer that we tried today?
I actually really like this honey blonde. I liked a little bit of sweetness versus the other blonde ales, and I think I would enjoy a few of these on a Saturday afternoon.
You heard it here, folks. Larry liked the Pizza Port Honey Blonde Ale as his favorite beer. I really enjoyed that beer myself, but if I had to choose which beer that I actually liked most out of all of these, I'm the type of individual that likes an easy drinking ale, something that you can drink anytime, any situation, and just continue to drink it until you don't want any more. And that beer for me is going to be the Santa Monica Blonde Ale. I don't even truly remember if I gave this a 5 out of 5. I'm pretty sure that I did. It was the first beer that we drank, but it was so smooth, so easy to drink, and it would definitely be my beer of choice if I were in a cornhole or bocce ball tournament, something that I'm just out there drinking all day. Santa Monica Brew Works Blonde Ale was my favorite of the beers.
All right, for my final judgment, I would actually say that the Mission Blonde was my favorite. It's a bit more complex. It had some other things going on in it, which I enjoyed a lot. Within blonde ales themselves, though, I will agree with Kevin and say that the Santa Monica was probably the best blonde that I had out of all these, as just a very straightforward blonde ale. Very enjoyable to drink.
So I think that there's one thing that I personally learned, and I think we can all maybe agree on, is that blonde ales, not all of them are going to be straightforward blonde ales. There's some German style, there are some that have hints of fruit and citrus and honey, and they all change about and they're all different. But we hope that this video today has given you a little bit of an insight into blonde ales, and maybe you'll see this video and want to try one of these blonde ales out for yourself. And if you do, leave a comment in the section. Let me know what your favorite was. Let me see if you guys want to try different beers out there. We're going to be doing a red ale as our next episode, and we'll even be looking at IPAs in the future. Sours are going to be on the back burner, but we'll get to those eventually. I know a lot of people like sours out there, but to me, it's like putting a warhead in your mouth. I don't really enjoy them so much, but I know they're big out there. So for today, this has been our episode of Rantas Reviews for the blonde ales, and this is the first video that we will be doing in the Chronicles of Beer Tasting on the Ranta Men. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for watching this episode of Rantas Reviews. Really appreciate you watching and tuning in, and we'll see you on the next review.
Cheers.
Cheers.